television version of Strategies for Living. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. Delighted that you've tuned in, joined with me today here on Strategies. Of course, Strategies for Living, well, we're all about helping us live healthier, happier, and more peaceful lives in our bodies, in our minds, in our spirits, in our relationships here in the 21st century. Now, we do that by engaging in important conversations with folks we like to call life strategists each and every time that we do Strategies for Living. And you know, doing Strategies for Living on the radio, I get to interact with some fantastic life strategists, one of which I'm going to share with you today. She is Dr. Shelley Urim, who is a very well-known psychiatrist. She's written her first book, and it's a good one right out of the box. It's called Essential Living, A Guide to Happiness and Peace by Reclaiming Your Essential Self, or How to Stay Sane in an Insane World. So I want to introduce you to Dr. Shelley Urim. Here we go. I got to tell you about a conversation that I've recently had with my friend Donna. She helps me book a lot of the programs, and she calls me and she said, David, I have got for you someone who is tailor-made for you. And I said, okay, Donna, tell me about that. And she said, she's a Harvard-trained, triple board-certified psychiatrist. And I said, Donna, what are you trying to say to me? Well, she said, what I really want you to do, David, is I want you to stay sane in an insane world. And that's what we're going to talk about today with this Harvard-trained, triple board-certified psychiatrist who is a senior fellow at the Meadows and is a distinguished fellow of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, clinical associate professor of psychiatry at the University of Arizona College of Medicine. I'm talking about Dr. Shelley Urim. She speaks all over the United States, Canada, even over the pond, across the pond there in the United Kingdom at conferences, international trauma conferences, annual meetings for professional bodies such as the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, the EMDR International Association, Harvard Medical School residencies. And, you know, I could go on and on, but, Shelley, we got to get you on here. Welcome.
Thank you, David. It's great to be here. Thank you.
You are welcome. I didn't quite know, what our friend Donna was trying to get across to me when she said, I've got someone tailor-made for you, David. So I'm going to lay here on the couch, Dr. Shelley, and I'm going to talk about my mother. How about that?
Sure.
So let me just hold your book up to the radio here so people can see it. It is called Essential Living, and it's a great book. It's out from Health Communications, HCI, and it's a guide to having happiness and peace by reclaiming your essential self. Boy, do we need this book today.
Oh, yeah.
What is maybe every, I don't know, maybe every generation or two says this, but are we going to hell in a handbasket? What do you think? How do we even begin, Dr. Shelley, to find personal peace and happiness with all that's going on around us in this world today?
You actually, the answer to that is actually built into your question. So, like right now, as you can see, I mean, with the weather that you're getting there, the politics, all the stuff that's going on in our country,
right,
in our world right now, it's
right,
getting, at least from my perception, almost daily, increasingly chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a nutshell, how do people find, a sense of peace and happiness as the world is getting crazier and crazier? So the answer is, in a nutshell, that it's not out there. The more you try to find your sense of peace and well-being from what's out there, the more you're going to be disappointed, because it's just not out there anymore.
Yeah.
So the part, the most essential, the essence of all people is, sometimes people call it a soul or a core self or an authentic self, but the most basic essence of who we are, which I just happen to call the essential self, almost all of us have turned away from it from a very young age, and we've looked, because of the way our brain is wired, we turn the spotlight of our attention to outside of us to get our approval and our sense of well-being, but we can't really do that on such a grand scale anymore because it's not out there anymore.
Yeah.
And it actually never really has.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, has it ever really been out there?
It's never really been out there, but there was enough stuff out there that we could get the illusion of that's where our sense of safety and well-being is. But things getting in the world is sort of like the crutches are getting knocked away from us now. And either we turn our attention inward to find who we really are and reconnect with that again, or we're really going to suffer.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy out there.
It is crazy. Why did you decide it's time to write this book? Again, the book is called Essential Living. It's available at your favorite bookseller right now, out from HCI. Why did you decide? Why did you decide this is the time for me to write this book, Dr. Shelley?
Well, it's actually been cooking in my brain, and I've been writing on it for years. And
those are the best kind.
Yeah.
See, they bubble in Louisiana. We call that gumbo.
Oh.
It cooks for a while.
It's because it has been cooking for years, and then I just felt within the past couple of years a real urgency to get it done. And HCI picked it up, and that once HCI picked it up, then I really had to commit to cleaning it all up and getting it in book form. Really take it from idea and less refined to really get it done.
Yeah.
And I could, the timing could not have been better. And the other thing that had really been behind me finishing it up and, for this final book product is that, the more people I've spoken to, because I've been in practice, I do adult and child and adolescent psychiatry and forensic psychiatry, and I've been in practice for many years, and what's become so clear to me is that the people who are facing the end of their lives because of illness or whatever, where they now know, okay, I'm not going to be around on this planet a whole lot longer.
Right.
And another group of people it's because it has been cooking for years, and then I just felt within the past couple of years a real urgency to get it done. And HCI picked it up, and that once HCI picked it up, then I really had to commit to cleaning it all up and getting it in book form. Really take it from idea and less refined to really get it done.
Yeah.
And I could, the timing could not have been better. And the other thing that had really been behind me finishing it up and, for this final book product is that, the more people I've spoken to, because I've been in practice, I do adult and child and adolescent psychiatry and forensic psychiatry, and I've been in practice for many years, and what's become so clear to me is that the people who are facing the end of their lives because of illness or whatever, where they now know, okay, I'm not going to be around on this planet a whole lot longer.
Right.
And another group of people that have faced emergencies like car accidents or the things that are going on in Houston now, life-threatening things. What's common to these people is that they're in a way, what's important to them becomes front center. So all the attachment to keeping people happy, meeting, others' expectations, meeting our own expectations for fitting in, that all pales in comparison when we realize, wait a minute, my life is truly finite. And it's not just a concept. So for people that have been given diagnoses that they know they won't be around, for a whole lot longer, or people like in car accidents or whatever, where they realize, oh my God, I could really die, then all of a sudden, so many of these people have clarity about what is important to them and what really isn't all that important.
Right. And, right. It puts everything in perspective, doesn't it?
Exactly. And the questions that people ask, all these people I've met over my career that are have terminal illnesses or whatever, or have been in emergency situations or life-threatening or near-death situations, what they all described was the questions they started asking themselves are, who am I really? What is it that is most important to me in my life before I go? And then addressing that and correcting it.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that the alignment between how most of us have been living our lives it's not a good alignment with what turns out to be the most important things for us. What we want the most when we realize, oh my God, I'm not going to be here a whole lot longer, those are very different than how most of us live our lives. So the analogy I use is, we're all climbing the ladder of our lives, step by step, rung by rung.
Right.
We're climbing the ladder of our lives as we think we're supposed to. And then all of a sudden we have this dawning awareness, oh my God, I have my ladder propped up on the wrong wall. So that's what this book is really about, and the timing couldn't be better because so many of us have turned our attention since we were very young to living our lives as we're supposed to, and then there's at some point most of us have a rude awakening. Now, wait a minute, this is really not what's most important to me, and I don't want to frighten people. A lot of people think when I say that, oh, I'm supposed to stop what I'm doing, and blah, blah. No. You can still pursue the same goals, but you really want to do some soul searching about, really what is most important for me.
What do I really want? What do I really see as my purpose? I want to go back to something you said just a second ago.
Sure.
I want to tell you about a dream, because you're supposed to tell your psychiatrist about a dream, right? So I have this dream several years ago. It's around 2001, somewhere along in there. And it's one of those dreams that the alarm clock woke me up. So I'm dreaming, and in the dream I'm punching numbers into a calculator. And I punch in 365 times 80. And the alarm clock goes off. And, damn. And so, but I'm laying there thinking, the psychotherapist in me wakes up and kicks in. What the heck does that mean? And at that point in time, both of my parents were in their 80s, so I said, oh, okay, well, that's what that means. So I got up, and I'm going to get some coffee, and I pass my desk, and there's a calculator on it. I can't stand it. So I sit down, and I punch in 365 times 80, and I get the result, and I say the damn calculator's broken. 29,200. There's got to be more days in 80 years than that. So I hit the clear, and I do it again, 29,200.
Wow.
And then I divide it by 7, 4171. 4,171 weeks if you live to be 80 years old. How fast does a week pass? I mean, that got my attention. So yeah. I go to the office, and I start sharing it as I do with some of my clients. One of my clients, we'll call him Tom, got mad at me. Mad. He said, that can't be right. And I just handed him the calculator. And Tom had come back into therapy. When you've been in practice for a while, I'm sure you have had this experience many times. People come back, And I had worked with Tom and his teenage daughter years before. She was engaged. She was about to launch. Tom comes back in, says, I want to work on me. Anyway, he punches the numbers into the calculator. He says, okay, it's 29.2, but I'm going to live to be 100. How many do I get then? And I said, 36,500. He said, okay, well, that's what I've got. All right, so I don't think too much about it. I'll work with Tom for a little while. Tom goes on his way, and it's about a year later or so. And I go get my morning coffee, and I go out and get the paper, and I open the paper, and there's the obituary page, and who is staring out at me but Tom?
Wow. Wow.
And I can't even begin to tell you the goosebumps
Yeah.
that I got. And this is why I think we have to pay attention to essential living today. Dr. Shelley Urim, her book is Essential Living. She's our life strategist today on Strategies for Living. She's going to teach us a great deal today. Stay with us. And we are learning so much today from Dr. Shelley Urim, Essential Living, how to stay sane in an insane world. And we do live in that, don't we? We'll be right back with more Strategies for Living. We've got more to learn from Dr. Shelley Urim today. Stay with us right here on Strategies for Living.
Here's an electrifying thought. Reducing energy use in your home saves you money, increases the nation's energy security, and reduces pollution. Here are some hints on how to go about it from the experts at the U.S. Department of Energy. First, when getting new appliances and electronics, be sure they're energy efficient. The way to tell is to look for the Energy Star logo on the product before you buy. When you get the item home, use it wisely too. For example, unplug electronic devices when they're not in use, and run the dishwasher or the washing machine only when it's full. Let the sun shine in. The more daylight that comes in through energy-efficient windows and skylights, the less electric lighting you'll need. When you do turn on the lights, be sure they have energy-efficient LED or fluorescent bulbs. Properly insulate and air seal your home so heated or cooled air doesn't escape, and your thermostat can be kept in an energy-efficient range. You can find much more energy-saving advice online at energy.gov. Following 5 simple steps can help you make sure your next do-it-yourself project doesn't end up doing something to yourself you'd rather not. First, always follow instructions. Before starting any project, carefully read the instruction manual of any tool you'll use. Check blueprints and wiring diagrams. Next, dress for the job. Always wear protective clothing, safety goggles, gloves, and a dust mask when working with potentially hazardous materials. Don't wear jewelry or loose clothing while using power tools. Be sure to keep a first aid kit handy. Get one that's easily portable and can be opened quickly. Never leave a project unattended. Don't leave tools or materials around when you're not around. If a child or pet should find power tools or paint on a ladder, a problem could result. Know your limits. If the project involves electricity, say, or a lot of remodeling, it may be best left to the pros. A less than top quality job could just end up costing you more later. You want your do-it-yourself project to be something you can point to with pride while protecting your pocket.
And welcome back into Strategies for Living, the television version. You're obviously watching Strategies for Living today, but don't forget you can listen to us Sunday mornings, 9:05 to 10, where it all began. News Radio 710 Keel, 101.7 FM, and you'll find us there every Sunday morning, 9:05 to 10. Also, Thursday afternoons, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on HealthyLife.net, where Positive Talk Radio hangs out. And you can, of course, find us at www.strategiesforliving.com. Today, Dr. Shelley Urim, the author of Essential Living. It's a guide to, it's a guide to staying sane in this insane world of ours. Let's get back to life strategist Dr. Shelley Urim today here on Strategies. And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. Dr. Shelley Urim is our life strategist today. She is a good one, and you may want to, I think you're going to want to, continue the conversation with her. One easy way to do that is to go get this book. It's called Essential Living, and it's packed. Now, one of the things that I love that you do here, Dr. Shelley, is this is just not, you just don't lay the theory out for us. It's practice too. You got a lot of exercises throughout this book that help us to grasp this concept of essential self. I love that you do that.
Thank you. Yeah, especially my favorite are at the very beginning of the book where, because most people, again, they're clueless about who they really are. So there's some exercises at the very beginning that help people dig deeper until they can actually get in touch with who they really are. So, yeah, I love that part of the book.
So, again, what I want to invite people to do, we've just barely scratched the surface of part one of the book. You talk about memory, you talk about deep false beliefs and negative feelings and symptoms and expectations. It's packed full. But I want to make sure that we get to what you call part two of the book, the way home. Because that's the bottom line. That's what we want. So what's the first? When chapter 7 opens up, which is the first part of the second part of the book, first chapter in the second part of the book, the big game plan for reconnecting with our essential self. I mean, football season's starting here, and you got to have the game plan, right?
Yeah.
If you get the game plan, that you got a great shot at winning the game. So what's the big game plan for reconnecting?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer that. But before I do that, there is one more thing I wanted to add to what we were talking about before the break.
Oh, good.
Then when we were talking about how, when you're identified mainly with succeeding in these external goals, and life happens, the ups and the downs happen. For most of us, our lives feel like a roller coaster. We feel great.
Yeah.
And then we don't feel so great. Then we feel great. Then we don't feel so great. And
right.
That's typical for most, almost, for the vast majority of human beings.
I think every single listener can identify with that.
Yeah. Now, and that's a direct product of, hitching your wagon to something that's not really solid. Now, when people start to identify and reclaim their most core self, their essential self, and that's where they live their lives from, that's who their identity shifts to, there's tremendous resilience. The external world, you can have its ups and downs, it's okay, because our happiness and our sense of peace and well-being doesn't rest on any of that.
Yeah.
It rests on something that is always there and very solid. It's the most real you that you are.
And this essential self accepts that, this is the world that I live in, right? It's up,
right.
It's down,
Right.
We're going to get surprises.
Actually, to answer something that you had asked me a while ago that I actually forgot to answer, that it's not our thoughts. So the way we are, in Western civilization, we think that everything is about our thoughts, but the essential self transcends that. We use our thoughts to come up with our game plan, but the essential self, as I said earlier, is a state of being that we're born with. It's not our thoughts.
Yeah.
So, so our thinking is not a substitute for, and our personalities are not a substitute for our most essential self. So it's a matter of reconnecting with that, and then again, it's a state of being. It's not something that you're doing or thinking about. It's how you basically exist. Okay, and then now the game plan. So what's the big game plan? Well, I don't want to go into too much detail because it's like the whole second half of the book.
Right.
But basically, just to
give us the Reader's
summary.
Digest version here. Yeah.
So first things first. If somebody has any kind of severe problems, like severe depression, or and I list them in the book, like lots of things, you need to get those addressed first.
Absolutely.
I've seen so many people during my career, when they start to turn the spotlight inside, if there's stuff they just have not been tending to that they really need to tend to, like severe, like bad addictions, depression, psychosis, severe eating disorders. This stuff, and again, I list more of the examples in the book. You got to address that stuff first.
Right.
You go to the right professionals for that, and you need a certain amount of steadiness to successfully turn the spotlight and the whole inner search,
Yes.
and cleaning stuff up.
Right.
So once you got those preliminaries, under control, then something that you and I spoke about, in the last segment of your show, that the survival brain areas, the limbic brain, which is the seat of our deep emotions, strong emotions.
Right.
When somebody's had a logjam or logjam of psychological traumas or whatever, and they're sort of stuck in fight, flight, or freeze. Where moment to moment they're usually in fight, flight, or freeze, which can look like chronic anxiety, chronic fear, chronic anger, or short temper, chronic depression, or shut down, for freeze. So when we're log jammed in these areas, we can't access the parts of the brain that can take us to the essential self. So part of the game plan, one step of the game plan is to help heal the limbic brain and the brainstem that have become log jammed with these things. Like I talk in the book about, different kinds of self-help, different kinds of things where you initially need somebody to help you, but then you can do it on your own.
Right.
And then other types of interventions where you really need to go to a professional for.
Right.
So you want to, quiet those parts down. An example I give, mindfulness practices, whether they're mindfulness meditation, and a lot of people have trouble sitting still, me included. When I first started going down this path a number of years ago, I couldn't sit still to meditate for literally more than 15 seconds, and I'm not exaggerating. Because, when that limbic brain is stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, you can't really sit still.
Right.
And be mindful for very long. But there's other ways of being mindful that can quiet down that limbic brain. For example, yoga, Tai Chi. I list there's a thing called emotional freedom technique, which is something you can read about and learn. It's like a tapping on meridian points.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways to skin the cat. Quiet down the amygdala, which is one of the key areas for the limbic brain that keep our brains sort of on fire, that we can't calm down enough to start to get to the essential self. So the door to the essential self, it has to come at least partially through calming these survival areas of the brain. Now, some people have said to me over the years, well, I don't want to shut off my survival brain areas. I need them to keep me safe. And that's very true.
Right.
I'm just talking about calming down the parts that are out of control.
Yeah.
With trying to protect you. They're always on. So the switch is always on.
Yeah.
Or almost always on for fight, flight, freeze.
Right.
Those don't keep you safe, and they prevent you. They keep the door closed to your accessing your essential self.
Good stuff we can all use from Dr. Shelley Urim. You got to get this book, folks, because we all need to stay sane in this insane world, and this is an excellent book. Essential Living. You'll find it wherever you buy books. If you enjoyed our conversation today with Dr. Shelley Urim, well, know we do conversations like this each and every time. We do strategies for living. Lots to learn from all of our life strategists. So make sure you tune in Sunday mornings, 9:05 to 10 on News Radio 710 Keel and 1017 FM. That's Sunday mornings, 9:05 to 10. And Thursday afternoons, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on healthylife.net, where Positive Talk Radio hangs out. And until we see each other next time here on the television version of Strategies for Living, for Dr. Shelley Urim, I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. See you next time on Strategies for Living.